So, Article 6 is right to recognition everywhere as a person before the law. So, Article 6 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights states that everyone has the right to recognition everywhere as a person before the law. Meaning, this article is fundamental because it establishes a person's legal existence. Being recognized as a person before the law means that an individual is seen by the state and the legal system as subject with the rights and duties, not merely an object or property. The purpose of Article 6 is to ensure the legal standing, which is the ability to access courts, register births and marriages, own property, hold a passport, and enter into contracts. Next, we have the protection of rights. So, without this recognition, all the human rights like right to work, education, or liberty are essential meaningless, as the individual has no legal mechanism to claim or defend them. Third, we have the universal application. This right must be recognized everywhere, meaning no one, regardless of location, the background, or the status, can be stripped of their basic legal identity. We have here a violation situation, which is the Rohingya people and denial of citizenship. So, a modern and severe violations of UDHR Article 6 is state-sponsored denial of legal personhood to the Rohingya people in Myanmar, formerly in Burma. So, we have here an example of situation. So, the legal erasure of the Rohingya. So, the Rohingya are Muslim minority group primarily residing in Myanmar Rakhine State. So, their systematic denial of legal recognition has created a protracted humanitarian crisis. So, the story of Fatima, a Rohingya woman, illustrates the severe human rights abuses, the specific impacts of legal personhood, denial, and stateless on individuals. So, the fundamental issue for Fatima and all Rohingya is the denial of citizenship by Myanmar under the discriminatory 1982 citizenship law, so which effectively rendered them stateless. So this legal denial is not just bureaucratic issue. It is a form of state-sponsored violence that removes access to fundamental rights and legal protection without legal identity or citizenship. So Rohingya are considered illegal immigrants or resident foreigners, so in their ancestral homeland, and are denied basic rights, including access to education, healthcare, freedom of movements, and the ability to work legally. So, Fatima narrative, as shared by organizations like IPAS and DW, focuses on the extreme vulnerabilities that this statelessness creates, particularly for women. So, violence and persecutions. Fatima was a 17 years old newly married woman living in Myanmar when the military arrived in her village during the mass atrocities in 2017. She was captured along with other women and subjected to repeatedly beatings, torture, and sexual assault over several days. So, forced displacement and statelessness. After her ordeal, she fled with her in-laws across the border to Bangladesh, where she was extremely reunited with her husband. So in Bangladesh, she lived in one of the refugees camps. So the impact of statelessness in the camps, Fatima and her husband remain without official papers. So this lack of this lack of legal status means they are officially stateless, at the mercy of the host government, and have no ability to work legally or move freely outside the camps. So their shelter are basic emergency structures, not intended for long-term accommodations. So loss of future and identity. Fatima's story highlights the ongoing uncertainty and lack of agency. She has likely suffered physical trauma that may prevent her from having children. The denial of her legal personhood in Myanmar has resulted in an unending legal impossibility of existence, trapping her in a cycle of trauma and waiting with the little hope of a normal life or safe return of her home country. Fatima's story is powerful example of how the abstract concept of legal personhood denial translates into concrete, devastating human suffering, leaving individual vulnerable to the worst forms of human rights abuses and with no legal resource and protection. So, this story illustrates how the failure to grant recognition as a person before the law, Article 6, creates a change of violations, leaving millions legally defenseless and vulnerable to persecutions. So, what is the problem Article 6 addresses? So, without legal recognition as a person, cannot prove identity, cannot defend their rights, may be abused or discriminated against, cannot access service like school, healthcare, work, or documents. So, example of people who might be denied recognition, which is the stateless person, refugees, people without birth certificates, or victims of discrimination. So, to solve issues under Article 6, a government must ensure everyone get legal documents like birth certificates and IDs. So, stop discrimination and equal protection under the law so every person is recognized and protected as a human being.